have to be honest with you guys, I'm a little nervous to be up here tonight, mostly because anytime you ask someone over 40 to get up in front of 100 people and talk about her bottom, it's kind of scary. But I am Carroll, and I am the wife of a pilot. We actually will celebrate our 19th wedding anniversary next week. But he has gone half the time, so we say we've only been married in 9 pilot years. So I professionally am the vice president of operations for a land development company that's located in South Carolina. I do some marketing here in Charlotte as well. And I am the proud mother of 2 children. My youngest, his name is Jacob, and he's adorable, blonde hair, blue eyes, totally grounded, very responsible, nothing like I was as a kid. And he's really amazing. I had nothing to do with that, but by the grace of God, he's super awesome. My oldest child, I can't really tell you much about because I chose to end that child's life before they were born. It's the first time I've ever said that to a group of people. So, I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you that that was my bottom, but it wasn't. I wish I could tell you that leaving that abortion clinic and going home and wanting to commit suicide with every part of who I was my bottom, but it wasn't. I had been molested when I was a very young girl, and I spent a lot of time trying to make up for that through very bad relationship with men, and I had just really annihilated myself spiritually and mentally and physically, and this one night I decided I wasn't going to do that, and I decided for some reason in my mind, I accepted Christ when I was 8, so I'm doing all this stuff as a good Christian girl, I'm doing all this stuff. And so this night, for some reason, I decided I was going to be pure. Maybe I caught a scripture on my bedside or whatever, and I went out with a boy and a man and found myself being pushed down 2 flights of stairs and date raped, and I found out I was pregnant. So I'm kind of the exception that people talk about. You know, that's the one time it's okay to have an abortion is when you're date raped. Well, I was. And that wasn't my bottom either. So after I had the abortion, I started doing what all good Christian girls do, working my hiney off to pay God back for what I had done. I knew I had a relationship with God, and I knew for sure there was something I needed to do. So all I knew to do was completely exhaust myself trying to figure that out. And so I decided to start volunteering at a crisis pregnancy center, and that was a wonderful experience, but I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I told my story 1,000 times. It was so numb, and the girls there, they didn't quite know what to do with me because I was one of them. The good Christian girls that worked there, I was one of the aborters, and they talk about aborters there, and they didn't know how to talk to me. They weren't sure how to talk to me. So one night, this girl, she was in her 20s. She came up to me, and she's so cute. She's kind of like this, and she's smacking her gum, and she's like, so tell me what it was like when you had your abortion. Like, you know, what was the movie like last week? And so I started to tell her, like, just like you would tell somebody, like, what the movie was like last week. And I remember it was so methodical for me and so numb, and so like this is just because I was a good Christian girl and I could tell my story because I was forgiven, and I told my story to everybody, but I was just numb. And so I was standing there, and above her head were the 10 Commandments. And I was talking to her, and I looked up, and the words, "Thou shalt not kill," came literally, I don't know how to explain it to you, off the page. And I was talking to her and looking at the words, talking to her and looking at the words. And I looked at her and I said, you know, I've never asked for forgiveness for committing murder. And I learned some things about God that night. That night, I found my bottom. I learned that God didn't need me to confess my sin to him to shame me. It's not what he asked me to do. The words, "I committed murder," are some of the hardest words a person could ever speak in their whole lives. And he needed more than anything for me to speak those words. Not because he needed me to say, you're a bad girl, this is why I died. You know, because that's what I hear. You're a bad girl, Catherine. Jesus died for you because you're a bad girl. That's not what he wanted for me. He wanted for me the very essence of what he did die for. He wanted from me and for me to be free. To be free. And that day, before a girl I will never see again this side of heaven, that I couldn't tell you what she looks like, I sat on my knees in a fetal position and bawled my eyes out. And I poured every part of the pain and shame of walking into that clinic and listening to those women yell at me and knowing what people thought of me because of who I was, and I gave it all to him. And you know what? I was broken to the core of who I am. And you know what? He filled me. For me, bottom is being open to the outpouring of the Messiah. It's the place where you break enough that he actually gets to fill you with his grace, his blood, his mercy, everything he died for, the love. It's really being broken. It's not being perfect. It's not being a good Christian girl. My big thing is, so long good girl, hello Jesus, because I'm not a good girl. I have committed the sin of all sins, and I'm free. I got up from that clinic that night, and I never once from that point forward regretted my abortion. I never once felt shame. I had been broken enough to let him pour in his grace enough that he set me free, completely free. And you know what? I wish I could tell you I'd done that with all the other stuff in my life I need to do that with, but it's a daily process for me. And you know what? It could have ended there for me, but it didn't. 6 months after that, my husband and I were told we couldn't have children because the scar tissue from the abortion had made me unable to have children. We chose not to have fertility. My husband's a baby believer at that time, and we moved to Hartsville, South Carolina from Indianapolis, Indiana. It was a culture shock. My husband's career was going like this. I was told I needed to be barefoot and pregnant because that's what women in the South did. I couldn't get pregnant. So I went to the doctor because my husband and I were fighting, and I was just stressed, and I thought I needed medicine, and I'm sure everybody around me felt like I needed medicine. My mother-in-law definitely felt like I needed medicine. And so the doctor came in, and he's like smoking a cigar, and he's in these jeans and this hat, and I think he maybe got off the 9th par course, and he's looking at these test results, and he's like, I don't know about all those big city doctors, but I can't put you on antidepressant right now. And I said, well, okay, and I was crushed. Like, here I am, I'm trying to do everything I can for my husband, and I'm lost in a city, and I felt like, and I'm free, but I can't have kids, and all of a sudden, he looked at me and told me I was pregnant with my son, Jacob. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. That's grace. That day, or 6 months after that day, in a church full of Southern Christian women where everybody was pregnant, like everybody, the woman in the church who did not care for me, her name was Betty Jean, came up to me and she said, Catherine, I'd like to ask you a question. And I said, okay. And she said, I'm just wondering if you would be willing to play Mary in our church play. That's my God. That's my God. He called me in the midst of everything I had done and asked me to be the chosen mother of Jesus. That's my God. So for me, when I talk about my bottom, and I'm a recovering addict. I have a bottom. But for me, it's not an event. My bottom's not an event. My bottom, being open to the outpouring of the Messiah, it's a place I want to live. Like, it's not something I want to experience. I want to live in it. I want to bask in it. I want to drown in it. And I want to stay in it as long as I have the guts to stay in it, because I have seen the freedom and the love and the strength that comes from being willing to be broken enough to let him pour through every part of who you are. It has changed me. That saved me. Church didn't save me. That is God's grace, and it saved me and set me free. So thank you very much.